Hey, welcome back. Well, the second leg of the quarterfinals continue today, 3 p.m. Eastern. Our pre-match coverage will begin an hour prior at 2, and a huge match coming up at the Bernabeu between Real Madrid and Arsenal. While the Gunners have a 3-0 lead, after yesterday's action, maybe not something you can feel all that comfortable about. But Arsenal minus 950 to advance compared to Real Madrid at plus 590. And here's a look at what some of the headlines have to say. Marca, if anyone can do it, it's Madrid. Is that how you boys feel? I mean, I think that's what we've all kind of agreed. I mean, we saw a team in Aston Villa almost overturn a 2-goal deficit at Villa Park. We saw Dortmund put some pressure on Barcelona. So, I don't know. Arsenal fans, myself included, feeling a little nervy going into this one. Our guy, Guillem Balagué, who is always on the go, he's going to be at the Bernabeu for this huge second leg match tonight. Comebacks are very possible, even if it is multiple goals that a team is having to overcome. So why can Real Madrid do it tonight?
I don't think we should just predict a miracle, because miracles don't happen that often. 3-0, it's a deficit that is so difficult to overturn, especially against a side like Arsenal that is solid, very well structured, and they've got a bit of experience. Enough, you would say, for them to go through is 3-0. But then you start scratching, and then you realize that, you know which one is the team that has overturned a 3-0 deficit more often than any other in Europe? Yes, that's Real Madrid. And then you know the magic of the Bernabeu. Then you say, actually, you know, Saka, how many games he's played in the Champions League? 15. You know how many Modric has played? 141. And the average is much higher, of course, for Real Madrid than for Arsenal. And then you think, what do Real Madrid sign? They sign basically the best player of all the teams around, be it in Europe or in Spain. What do you get by that? Quality and, of course, mental strength. So they know how to manage a game when it's required. When you have to accelerate, you accelerate. When you have to slow down, they normally do so. And there's one more thing which doesn't get mentioned in the comebacks of Real Madrid. It's harder to come back if your team has to play like an orchestra, like a collective. If that happens, so many things have to happen. With Real Madrid, it's a spark. That's all you need. The quality of one player that can basically change the dynamic of a game. So those are the reasons, the logical reasons why such an illogical thing can happen. But Arsenal fans, yourself included, you should be calm. It's only 90 minutes. It's only a football team in front of you. It's only one ball. And it's only the Bernabeu, just the stadium.
Yeah,
I don't know if that makes anyone feel much better.
It's only the Bernabeu.
It's only Real Madrid.
As Juanito once said, 90 minutes in the Bernabeu are molto longo. But listen, Guillem, Bellingham kind of referred to this in the press conference, that there's been a lot of this narrative about Real Madrid pulling this off. What's that dynamic like in Spain, and how much does that ultimately affect what goes on in the field, because everybody thinks it's possible?
Well, Bellingham is the perfect example of it. By the way, you're going to be seeing a lot of people. I'm just by the Bernabeu. A lot of people passing by with flags and shirts. I haven't seen many Arsenal fans yet, but Bellingham is the perfect example of what we're describing in terms of there is no logic to it. But there is always a but. He started the week. You remember what he said after the defeat against Arsenal? He was like, it's going to take something crazy to actually overturn this. And yesterday he was saying, we're going to win. So he's heard remontada, they come back so many times this week. He's heard the stories. He's gone on TikTok and so Butragueño talking about that famous game against Anderlecht, in which Real Madrid needed a 5 goals difference, and they managed to get it. 6-1 victory. Okay, it was Anderlecht, but then you look back to the last couple of years, and what you get PSG, Manchester City, Chelsea, and Bayern Munich, massive teams that couldn't keep their difference. But then it's fine. We just go with the narrative because it makes the story better. But Kroos is not here, and Kroos is the guy that will tell you how it goes, when to accelerate, when to slow down. Carvajal is not here, and he's one of those personalities that are required in a game like this. You've got a team that doesn't run. You've got Valverde, the most tired legs in the whole of Europe, who will probably play in the middle. It's wasted on the right-hand side of the defense. You've got Rodrigo, who has not scored, I think, 1 goal in the last 2 months and a half. Vinicius, who scored 1 goal in 6. Mbappé wasn't scoring 4. Isn't that enough to say, nah, Real Madrid are going to do this? But, yeah, there's a but.
All right, well, there has been, Guillem, a lot of speculation, regardless of results on the field about Carlo Ancelotti's future, which is why we're going to do a little Zillow new home search. Could Carlo Ancelotti be looking for a new home? Well, here's what he had to say about just that. He said, tomorrow's game won't determine my future. Short and sweet there. What say you, Guillem?
Can you imagine him saying the opposite? Tomorrow's game will determine my future. Then you got the headline and you got everybody talking about Ancelotti. Of course, he will determine his future because Real Madrid is about big nights and what happens on those big nights, be it a Clásico or be it, of course, a Champions League night like today against Arsenal, will determine not just Ancelotti's future, the future of Modric, the future of Lucas Vázquez, the future of Alaba. So there will be a little bit of a revolution if Real Madrid don't go through, even if they manage to take the league to the last game, for instance. Barcelona still favourites, perhaps. They are ahead anyway, 3 points. So they probably, maybe, will win the league. There's a cup final to play. That will not save Ancelotti. It's all about tonight in my eyes.
I just want to remind everybody that Carlo Ancelotti won the Champions League with Real Madrid and still sacked him. Ooh. Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Guillem, I want to ask you this. We were just talking about the big news that we heard, Kylian Mbappé only receiving a 1-match suspension for that tackle against Deportivo Alavés. What was your experience when you heard the news? Because we're sitting here debating, and I think it's consensus, that's not enough.
I hear you talk about it, and first of all, it's not a La Liga problem, if you like. It's the federation who determines the punishment to players in situations like this. And according to the law, it was 1 to 3 games. If you consider that it was really dangerous, that could have broken a leg, should have been 3. And if you think that it was just reckless, but that's it, it's 1. Perhaps 2 would have been enough. Certainly, it seems like it has got a lot of people upset in Barcelona, not so much in Madrid. 2 would have been, I think, fairer because it was one frustrated tackle or whatever you want to call it on the back of Alavés players trying to wind Mbappé up, and not for the first time in his career, him falling for it, falling in the trap. And that, the consequence of it, or his reaction, should have had at least 2 much fun.
Guillem, awesome stuff. As always, we look forward to your coverage tonight from what is going to be an amazing atmosphere in your new outfit.